I think I already mentioned this to you. I really like the part where Meg says that Joanna has learned to control her temper better recently when she has started to date the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Lawrence boy.
Not that one, the
Yeah.
Frederick character. One thing that was different from mine is that in Louisa May Alcott's, Joe is the very last romance. Yeah. But with mine, I wanted Joe, because everyone kind of thinks of Joe when they think of Little Women. So I wanted to start things off. She's kind of the more exciting character, usually. So I wanted to start off with her. But then I ran into the issue in the future books. Wait, he's already here. So how do we work Frederick in to the other storylines? So that was interesting to have to figure out.
I thought it was nice how you can see them now through these other characters from their eyes. The way Meg sees how good he is to her.
Mm-hmm.
Meg sees her sister becoming this person that she's meant to be because of this other guy, how he helps her. And I really look forward to read the Amy and Laurie book now. And the Beth book too.
The Beth one was definitely the most challenging one because there's no backstory. There's nothing in the original. Just here's Beth. She's shy and plays the piano and has cats and dolls, and now she dies. So it was a lot more kind of going on a character outline than a fully formed character and relationship. So that one I kind of had to do a lot more original story for than I did the other ones. There's so much Amy and Laurie in both Good Wives and Little Women that then for my last book, it kind of made up for having to make stuff up because there was so much to draw from.
I look forward to read both of them. Yeah, Beth is interesting because it's kind of funny because when I read the Finnish version, I got this impression that she had a crush on Laurie. But when I read the English one, I wondered, like, did she have a crush on him or not? Because I think maybe it was the translation that kind of romanticized him in her eyes a bit more than the English one. But then I read that Louisa Alcott had a secret admirer, or that she had a crush on someone. So I was like, maybe my childhood Laurie and Beth romance had some kind of base on reality.
Maybe.
That was interesting.
I just always...
Hello, friends. It is Niina from the Little Woman podcast. Just to let you all know that the Little Woman podcast episode transcripts are now available as books. You can find them as paperbacks and ebooks. They are wonderful reading for all the fans of Louisa May Alcott. You can find all the links from the description. And now, back to the show.
Thought that Joe thinks Beth has a little crush on Laurie. And then later, she finds out it was because she kept staring out the window and she thought that Beth was staring after Laurie and she was quieter and more flustered. And so she was seeing all these signs of having a crush or being in love. And later, Joe, I think it says that Joe realizes it was because Beth was realizing she was not going to get better.
True.
And it was kind of more the coming to terms, I guess, with her mortality.
I read that Louisa Alcott had a crush on some neighbor boy and that Louisa May Alcott thought that she was in love with somebody.
I didn't know that part, so that's, well, maybe.
When I read the Finnish version as a child, and I thought, okay, maybe Beth has a crush on Laurie. Now I think, okay, maybe that was validated. But then I read the English version. I didn't feel that she had a feelings for Laurie that were romantic, only like sisterly feelings. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. All kinds of fan fictions we could have here.
Yeah. And just that she did have a crush on somebody. I will look forward to read your book. Beth is a very mysterious character.
She is, because there's just not a lot about her.
Some of the research that I've read about Lizzie Alcott, it feels very one-dimensional, but maybe it's because people tend to read her through Beth's character.
Probably.
Do you have a favorite, Meg, on movies or Little Women adaptations?
Well, I love almost everything about the 1994 one. So I like that actress. I also really liked the Meg in the modern adaptation movie.
The 2018.
Yeah, I really liked her.
Those two are good ones.
Yeah, those two I think are my favorite Megs.
I think Trini Alvarado in the 1994 film is maybe closest to the book Meg.
She did play it pretty close to the original.
She has that quiet strength that the character
needs. She does.
One thing that I liked in the modern version is the way it kind of shows how the family was very religious. Meg, she goes to parties, she drinks, but then she also has these very conflicted feelings about being there, being part of the social crowd and the popular kids there. It kind of played on her fate, that adaptation. That version made very clear that the father was like a pastor.
Religious, a chaplain.
And the family was quite different to the other people in the town. When I grew up, my best friend came from a very religious family. So I kind of felt that she had some similar experiences when we were growing up.
Okay.
She always felt guilty after she drank something like alcohol, or even if she smoked, like she always felt really guilty afterwards. So maybe the March sisters would have been like that because, in the book, they don't like to drink, and they have some pretty strong views about Laurie when he smokes cigarettes.
Right, goes to the billiard place.
Yeah, all these things that were not seen very appropriate back then.
Right.
So I can see Meg feeling quite conflicted by those things. There's one thing that I really love when I read Little Men again. There's this moment where Fredrik says that he stopped smoking because he wanted to show good examples for the students. Okay. And I really like that.
I didn't remember that part. That's interesting.
It's funny because Jo is so not happy with Laurie when he smokes, but she doesn't have problems with Fredrik smoking.
That is funny.
They say that love makes us blind.
Yes.
That was funny. Laurie gave up smoking for Jo, or he says he did. But Fredrik gave up smoking for the students, apparently.
The students, yeah. Well, and I think that also goes back to how people see the mothering aspect, how Jo would kind of mother Laurie.
That's
so
true.
She would want to be telling him what he shouldn't do, and Fredrik, what she was never trying to be a sisterly or motherly role with.
No.
He can make his own decisions, but she's gonna tell Laurie what he should not be doing.
Yeah, that was so fun to read.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That is funny.
Yeah, last time I read it, I highlighted all the Fredrik parts so I can make it to the podcast someday.
I haven't read Little Men very many times. I've read Little Women over and over and over and over, and I like Little Men, but I just haven't read it maybe once recently because I wanted to kind of know where that went as I was writing mine, and then once when I was younger. But I don't know it nearly as well as I know Little Women.
Yeah, I've read Little Man many times when I was younger, but I haven't really read it as an adult. Now I have read it a couple of times for the podcast.
I liked in Little Men just seeing the grown sisters and their husbands interact and how they're still friends, and how Laurie is still the fun uncle who comes in and riles them all up and then is like, well, bye. Jo is stuck trying to calm them down for bed or whatever. Stuff like that I found funny.
Well, Little Man is also heartbreaking because we lose John in that book.
I know. I saw as I was reading it, because I didn't remember much about it at all when I read it when I was younger, and I'm reading it, and I think the chapter is named John Brooke or something, and I'm like, oh no. No. And that's what it was. And I'm just like, no, we can't lose him.
And he was such a good character and a father. And There's this funny moment when Fredrik says that when he and Laurie got married, they would ask John for marital advice.
Oh, okay.
Somebody write a book about that.
Yeah, we need that. We need that episode. What would he say?
Do men even ask about marital advice? I don't know.
Right. I don't know either.
I want to read that.
I just want to know what he said. Someone needs to write that.
But he had been married for the longest.
You'll have to do a Little Men podcast sometime.
Yeah, I'm now doing these readings of the different chapters in Little Woman, but at some point we will move into Little Men after we have done Little Woman.
When I have free hour or whatever, I need to go and listen to the last one you posted with all the questions. Those people's questions. I've been wanting to listen to it since you posted it, but it was the last week of school and graduation, and
yeah,
I went and helped out with a friend's parents' funeral luncheon, and then my husband was off school, and all these appointments for the kids that we pushed off until summer so that we wouldn't have to take them out of school. So it's been kind of crazy, but I need to remember to go back. I kept the email because I'm on the mailing list. I'm like, as long as I keep the email in my box, I'll see it when I'm randomly scrolling down trying to clean it out, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that I still have to go back to that and listen to it because it sounded interesting.
It was fun to make, and people make really good questions that I don't really think myself when I do the podcast, so it's always really fun to make those Q&As.
Well, I have some outside work to do, so maybe I'll put it on my phone while I'm doing my outside work today.
Yeah, I always try to listen to a podcast when I'm doing the dishes or something.
Or laundry or something.
Yeah, something. Something to keep me busy.
Multitasking.
Yes. I wanted to ask more about John's character. Would you like to tell how you started to develop him?
I think I've written so many books, and the way that I come up with books, with stories, I think a lot about the stories before I ever sit down to write. And I write out of order. A lot of people sit down and they start with the first word of chapter 1, and the last thing they write is the last word of the last chapter, and then they go back and edit it. But I don't really write that way, so I skip around, and if I have an idea for, I think this would be a funny scene, or this is an important conversation I want to get in, I'll write that part. So I write the pieces and then I put it all together. That's kind of a hard thing for me to answer because I don't sit down and a lot of people will sketch out their characters, like this is what they look like and these are their characteristics and this is their backstory. But for me, it kind of comes from the interactions or the conversations or the important pieces that I think of and then get down first, and then I kind of fill the rest of it in. I can't really give you a good answer to that. Kind of what I did was, or watching the adaptations and reading the original, I would make note about things that the original character did or said or his backstory. And then I just kind of, as I was writing, kind of tried to incorporate those and modernize them and add a little bit of my own flair, which kind of came together. Each draft, my characters become more concrete and more well-rounded because I am kind of fleshing it out. My first drafts are not very complete. It's a lot of conversation and banter and a little bit of description, and then I go in and layer them until the books end up longer and with more subplots and characters become more real to me. So I guess that kind of answers your question.
Oh, it was a good answer. You start to shape the character from the conversations.
I might come up with ideas later and then I have to go back in and make it consistent. This character likes whatever. Well, now I have to go back in and make sure they like that team or food or whatever from the beginning to the end. I guess my characters kind of develop along with the plot and the theme. And
I was thinking how in your story, John's mom is an alcoholic. And then I think in some Louisa May Alcott stories, there are some characters who would be described to be alcoholics. In Rosie Bloom Charlie, he does have a drinking problem. Somebody commented, I think maybe it was some Little Women discussion group, that they are convinced that Louisa May Alcott knew someone with a drinking problem based on Charlie's behavior.
Well, that for me kind of developed because I wanted to figure out how to get him, my John character, to be living at the Lawrences. And if you had a stable home, you wouldn't think, oh, maybe I should go live with these people I'm working for, because you would just drive the 5 minutes to work for them and you'd go home. So partly I knew I wanted him to have an unstable family life to get him to be in a position where he would be living there. So he would be next to the Marches and kind of having that little brother relationship, having Laurie kind of as a little brother as well as a tutor who he was, or a tutee, I guess. So that was kind of where that started. In the book, his mom had been sick, the original, and you wouldn't like up and ditch your mom if she was like, oh, I have cancer or I have whatever. It had to be more of an emotional, mental addiction kind of thing to facilitate him wanting to move in with them. So that's kind of, I think, how I ended up working that in.
Yeah, I think if John's mom would have been like deadly ill, he would not have left her. He's that kind of a character.
I had to make him want to leave.
I wonder, do you think Laurie might have had some kind of ADHD or problems with focusing?
Maybe.
Yeah. When I read Little Woman last time, I felt that he really struggles to focus on one thing at a time. Like, I hear sometimes people say that Joe has problems with that, but I think Laurie has them even more.
Yeah, but if Joe is interested in something, she will for days obsess over that.
Yeah.
So I don't think she pays attention to what she wants to. Yeah. I wonder if Laurie did have some kind of a attention deficit. She's always looking for any kind of a distraction almost.
I do feel that when I read the book, like the whole sequence of him is trying to decide if he wants to be with Joe or with Amy, it feels the same. Like, he cannot focus on composing the opera when he dreams about one girl and then he dreams about the other girl.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have had any kind of words for that back then.
No.
Labels, or you would just kind of be seen as kind of spacey, probably.
Maybe an undiagnosed ADHD.
I wouldn't be surprised.
In your version, he really had struggles with school. That's why he needed the private tutor.
It was kind of almost more like he didn't care. You got to stay on task, kid.
After he was rejected by Joe, I think he said to his grandfather that the whole college was like labor lost or something.
He was trying to be the person that she would want.
And it didn't work.
No.
It's kind of sad. Maybe he should have gone to study music or something. He went to have internship with his grandfather after that. Yeah, in the original.
There's so much in that book. We could read it over and over and over and still get something new.
That is
Every
true.
time I read it, I do. I notice something that I didn't notice. Seems like it works out all right for everyone in the end, except for poor Beth.
So in your version, Laurie's mom was a musician and his father was also a musician.
His mom was a music teacher and his dad is like a famous musician in mine.
And his grandfather didn't like his mom.
Didn't want her to get involved in all that stuff. Because she was kind of being a typical teenager and a little whimsical about, we were talking earlier about, becoming an actor isn't really something that any parent would love to hear, but, I want to be a musician following a famous band around. Probably wouldn't be something that you'd want to hear your child say either.
Probably that's why Laurie wanted to be more involved with music, is because he felt connection to his parents. Thank you so much for coming here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I always like talking with you.
Yeah.
You always have some insight that I've missed in Little Women.
So do you. I always enjoy to hear your thoughts.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad you enjoyed the second book, and I hope you enjoy the third and fourth.
I believe I will. Thanks for coming here. And I will talk to you again later. Have a nice night. No, have a nice day. I'm going to have a nice night.
Yes, you have the nice night and I'll have a nice day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. That was our discussion for today. Thank you so much for listening. Take care and make good choices. Bye.